I'm clerk, time 7 p.m. I'm going to call this council meeting to order. Town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territories of the Chippewas of Regina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. Further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. Shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today. Help us walk together into a better future. So can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the additional items? Councillor Weese, Councillor Thompson, comments, questions? Call the vote. Councillor Gardner. Councillor Gardner. Councillor Gardner. Gillian. Yes. Carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we have no community presentations. We have 4 delegations. First up, 6.1, Shawn Deane, resident, regarding item 8.3.1. Mr. Deane, welcome. You have 5 minutes and the floor is yours.
Good evening. The new information concerning the increased budget and decay of Victoria Hall has now become yet another example as to why I've declared no confidence in the town's ability to responsibly manage taxpayer dollars. The costly mismanagement of this project shines a spotlight on the decay of the town's own financial governance, its own policy and procedures with respect to oversight, transparency, accountability, integrity, risk mitigation, budget discipline, community engagement, and accurate information.
Councillor Thompson, point of order.
Understand Mr. Deane's delegation says it's about the community reflection space, but your comments seem to be about Victoria Hall.
Mr. Deane, if I can get you to speak to the item that you came to speak to tonight. 8.3.1, community reflection space, concept plan.
I'm here to speak about Victoria Hall, and I have the email to prove it.
Madam Clerk.
And
Madam Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the initial delegation request was for Victoria Hall and for community space reflection because Mr. Deane did do a delegation on Victoria Hall at the committee of the whole. We did tell him that he would not be able to do a delegation on Victoria Hall at the council meeting, but we did say he could do the one on community reflection space. And we did send him an email telling him we would update the delegation request.
I don't recall receiving that information.
Well, I can just get you to stick to 8.3.1, Mr. Deane.
So you are not going to allow me to speak about Victoria Hall.
Unless council wants to waive procedure to allow you.
So there's new information that's come to light and we're having another meeting. So
Councillor Weese, Councillor Gallo, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Go ahead, Mr. Deane. We need to follow process.
Thank you. This is, I'm all for following process and I'm doing my best to do that. So if I can ask to begin from where I left off. The people of Aurora have been misinformed when the mayor repeatedly stated that the repair cost of Victoria Hall does not impact the budget. Yes, it does. And surely this is known by someone who's been in the job for 8 years. Otherwise, this means that every taxpayer can now ask for a refund of the 1% tax levy charged in the mayor's budget just 2 months ago and has been repeatedly charged to taxpayers since 2011. Furthermore, the town's fiscal strategy states most of the funding from the capital reserve comes from the tax levy as contributions to reserves in the operating budget, generating the revenue for these reserves contributions can result in increases to the tax levy and user rates. These statements can be found on the town's website, and they contradict the mayor's words. Additionally, both the asset management and growth and new reserve funds are also funded by the tax levy, and the treasurer has not yet disclosed the balance in both of these reserve funds. So how can council responsibly agree to any new increases without knowing the balances first? And it creates risk of not knowing if we have enough funds for next year's projects. The growth and new reserve specifically is related to new home builds, and the town is at its lowest new home growth rate since 2005 at less than 1% or 150 homes a year. And it is these funds, future tax revenues of these unbuilt homes that are required to fund growth in new related projects. This revenue does not exist today. Therefore, the town is spending money it does not have, and this is not responsible, and it creates risk to use creative accounting in this uncertain economy. Oversight and input by the Financial Advisory Committee is currently missing. This committee assists council and the corporation in filling its fiscal responsibilities and reviewing the recommending on long-range corporate financial planning and processes. So what is the advice the Financial Advisory Committee has for their fellow councillors today on Victoria Hall? Budget discipline. The capital budget is already 37 million over forecast, and the Community Services Department budget is also already 5 million over their forecast. So where are the financial on and off ramps of this project as requested by Councillor Kim? The answer given by staff is these responsibilities are the responsibilities of council. Therefore, the sooner council creates new bylaws for all projects, the better. Otherwise, as Councillor Kim predicted, it's only a matter of time before staff requests another $1 million for Victoria Hall. Accountability. Why were renos put on hold since 2016, including a $20,000 accessibility ramp approved in 2023? Why was the subfloor declared inaccessible until last June? Why did it suddenly become accessible? We own the building. We can go in and lift the floorboards anytime. The town own asset management plan inspects all buildings regularly, so dry rot is overlooked during these inspections. What else is overlooked, and is it even worth performing inspections if the reports are incomplete and inaccurate? And who should be accountable for late discovery of dry rot in a 140-year-old building when dry rot is known and a common issue in heritage buildings? Should it be contractors, staff? Currently, mayor and staff are expecting only taxpayers to be accountable by paying an extra 320% over budget without first answering all the unknowns. Is this fair? Is this fiscal responsible leadership?
Can I get you to wrap up, please?
Yep. If I can have a minute of leniency due to the.
I got 4 other delegations.
Okay, so I'll wrap up. So yes, I'm curious if there's dry rot in Hillary House and we're going to have to pay for that. The community engagement was staff has changed the design and to accommodate unknown future uses without council or community engagement, which goes against policy. Why? The town reached out on the reflection space to the community. Why not Victoria Hall? And there's public applications for renting the hall that we don't know what happened. Should we open up the application process to future applicants with this new information? So the other unknown is how long was Victoria Hall being closed? Why was it closed? Why can we unlock the door and go in there today and generate some rental income with no additional investment? These are the unknowns. Thank you for your time.
Okay. We have a motion to receive. Councillor Gardner, Councillor Kim, any questions? Seeing none. Mr. Deane, thank you very much for coming this evening. All those in favor? I shall call the votes. All right, I'm around the screen. It carries. Next, we have Mr. Hartman regarding 8.3.2. Mr. Hartman, welcome. You have 5 minutes. Floor is yours.
Before I begin my delegation, I'd like to stand out and thank the Aurora staff and stone removal teams for their incredible work on keeping our roads safe and clear this winter. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, staff, and others in attendance this evening. My name is John Hartman. I've been a resident here for 25 years and have served on the Town Park Community Association Award 1, the Metrolinx Community Consultation Group, the town's latest official plan review committee, and I'm currently on the Committee of Adjustment. My focus tonight is based on combining transparency and disclosure to build community trust. Last week, I came home from a Costco shop having spent over $287. My wife asked me what in the world would I have paid for than that amount. I said I couldn't tell her. It's a secret. Just trust me. Well, that was a fun night on the couch. So let's fast forward and put that question in context. Imagine a similar question put to our council on what their intentions on spending $2.2 million on Victoria Hall renovations, of which $1.7 million was not budgeted. Council gave final approval to the mayor's budget on December 7th, 2025. $500,000 might have been approved at the time, but now jumped to a $2.2 million factor. $2 million for what? Don't get me wrong. I'm 100% behind the preservation, protection, and required renovations of heritage assets within the town. But why the bump? The word transparency is defined by Webster's as the quality of being open to public scrutiny. Transparent leadership uses words like authentic, humble, open-minded, and helps build rationale behind decisions to build trust, morale, and accountability. Let me offer you a few dates and reflections on disclosure. Renovations for Victoria Hall on the report for repurposing said $213,200 for renovations, $231,219 for an addition, $80,000 for contingencies, and $88,000 for soft costs. That same report in 2016 noted that there were 15 potential uses for Vic Hall, including and other historic properties that range from retail to food to beverage to dance halls to offices. They're all listed in sections 7, 8, and 9 of that report. Council at the time, 4 of whom are with us this evening, are Mayor, Councillor Gartner, Kim, and Thompson. This group did not take any action to move forward on a renovation in 2019 or repair. Nothing was done. Why not? No money? No reserves? Don't know. Jump ahead 7 years later to our town's budget on January 31st, 2023. It was approved in the asset management plan, project number 72454, Victoria Hall accessibility ramp for $20,000. I don't recall seeing the ramp. Maybe I missed it. And then again, 1 year later, May 1st, 2024, the Energy Conservation Demand Management Report was tabled on Table 9, page 24, a spend of $200,000 to go from HVAC to heat pump, roof insulation, and other minor updates. Nothing was done. 1 year later, March 25, a call for request for expression of interest for the Armory Cafe in Victoria Hall. Did anyone put forward a potential plan for Victoria Hall? I know it's confidential. Maybe, just maybe, an organization or investor strongly suggested that Victoria Hall needed more money and that greater renovations before it could accept food and beverage use or any lease-based residency opportunities. Finally, the 2026 town budget, or what some people call the people's budget, first tabled on October 20th, 2025 and approved on December 7th, 25, included $500,000 for Victoria Hall renovations, yet less than 50 days later and even fewer days of business, we're told that the renovations would jump to $2.2 million. Last week, I called AECOM, the same firm who did the 2016 repurposing assessment, and I asked about the length of time it would take to complete such an assessment on scale and scope of such renovations. What I could find out, and based on research, it would take several months to complete and submit a review back to the town for full review. You cannot convince me that when the final budget was approved last December, no one knew about what was coming down the pipeline for potential escalation in costs for renovations. We waited 10 years to take action on potential Victoria Hall renovations. It's not going to fall down this year. Why put the rush? Why not put it to election time this fall? Please don't tell me this has no impact on taxes. The levy maybe, but who built that pool of funds? We did, the taxpayers. If it's truly called the people's budget, why not ask people during the fall election period what people might think or want? Why not have staff complete an engagement process like we did on the official plan or the town park refurbishment? In summary, for Victoria Hall, share all of the information, be fully transparent, not pieces or redactions. Provide residents a sense of potential purposes, engage them. I'm certain people at our very own Heritage Committee will have excellent ideas. Delay the spend of allocation of $1.7 million until you further disclose information and budget it in 2027. While I'm on the topic of transparency, let me make a comment about reflection space. The cost last week, we found out 2 weeks ago, the committee of the whole was $250,000. We're now told that will double due to costs of construction. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter, and let's reflect on what really matters and what the definition of Webster says on transparency for the sake of our town called Aurora. Thank you, Councilor Member.
Okay, a motion to receive and refer. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Kim, any questions? Seeing none, Mr. Hartman, thank you very much. Call the vote. Councillor Garner? Yes. That carries. Next, we have 6.3, Linda Duringer, regarding 8.3.2. Linda, welcome. 5 minutes and the floor is yours. I'll keep you on track. Go ahead.
Doing my best. Mayor and members of council, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to address you. My name is Linda Duringer. I'm a resident of the Town Park area, a former member of the Aurora Committee of Adjustment, former chair of the Property Standards Committee and the Appeal Committee, and I currently serve as a member of the Heritage Committee. Most importantly, however, I'm a Town Park resident. As a resident, I respectfully request the council and staff to provide more detailed information regarding the proposed renovation of Victoria Hall, particularly as it relates to the potential impact on surrounding residents. With the additional budget allocation of 1.682 million, I would appreciate clarification on the full scope of the proposed renovations, the intended long use term of the space, anticipated impacts such as noise, traffic, parking, servicing requirements, garbage storage, lighting, and operating hours. Will there be further opportunities for public input? I have reviewed the 2016 ACOM repurpose study, which outlined renovations estimated at approximately 600,000, including an accessible ramp, washroom, electrical updates, all reasonable and community-focused improvements. Why was there no action taken on this report? While I understand the cost increase over time, the additional 1.682 million represents a significant escalation. Victoria Hall is 1,722 square feet. It could be wrong. The cost for the comprehensive high-end major historic renovation varies between $500 to $600 per square foot. Your estimate comes in approximately $1,400 a square foot. Seems well beyond industry standards. Residents deserve a clear explanation of why costs have risen so substantially and whether the scope of the work has changed accordingly. Even if these renovations proceed, it is difficult to see how taxpayers would reasonably recoup an investment of approximately 2.2 million through rental revenue within any foreseeable timeframe. Victoria Hall sits in an established residential neighborhood. Transparency and proactive communication are essential to ensuring that the quality of life of surrounding residents is thoroughly considered. As a community, we own this property. Why must the town become a landlord? Why can this not remain a vibrant public space, a meeting space, a rentable venue for weddings, reception, AGMs, celebrations of life, and community gatherings? We once had the Armory available for such purposes. After it became Slabtown Armory, the promised 3 days per week for community use just never materialized. Residents in the area are always experience concerns related to noise and traffic and loitering and excessive lighting from Aurora Town Square. If the intention is to introduce another full-service restaurant into this residential neighborhood, many of us believe that this would be extremely disruptive. Commercial kitchens, oversized waste storage, outdoor patio setting, and extended operating hours would intensify existing pressures. We are already managing these impacts from Slabtown Armory. We should not repeat that situation again in a residential neighborhood. Victoria Hall is designated heritage building. Preservation, not commercialization, should be our goal. We do not need another beautiful heritage building altered with a modern glass atrium or by illuminated signage shining into the night. We have already seen that within our downtown heritage district on Yonge Street. Victoria Hall is a beautiful reminder of Aurora's past. Since 1883, the men and women who passed through these doors helped shape this town into the community we are proud of today. To be surrounded by buildings with such history is an honor. With plans to revitalize our downtown core and preserve its historic buildings and facades, we must remain focused on protecting what is historic rather than modernizing it beyond recognition. Through the town and the efforts of Adam Robb, Manager, Policy Planning and Heritage, a new heritage grant program was established that provides $30,000 annually for our heritage designated homes to assist the homeowners, if required, in maintaining the exteriors of the heritage properties. That $30,000 must stretch across dozens and dozens of heritage homes with deteriorating porches, brickwork, and general upkeep on homes that have stood for over a century. There appears to be a significant imbalance in the allocation of funds when compared to the proposed investment in Victoria Hall. Victoria Hall belongs to the people of Aurora. Mr. Mayor, members of council, you represent us. You were elected by us. I respectfully ask that you carefully consider the respective concerns of the surrounding community. I'm proud to presently serve on the Heritage Committee. Listening to the stories of our town and preserving that history is inspiring and rewarding. I hope we can maintain Victoria Hall as a preserved heritage space for this and our next generation of residents to use, visit, and appreciate, not as another commercial dining establishment. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Councillor, I have a motion to receive and refer. Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Weese, any questions? Linda, thank you very much for coming. Call the vote. Carries. 6.4, Leta Dayfoot, resident regarding 8.3.2. Dayfoot, welcome. You have 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
Goes down. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, members of council. My name is Leta Dayfoot, a resident of Aurora and a resident fly on the wall at public council meetings, either up there or through the video. During my observations at these procedural meetings, I've heard positions from members all around this chamber table, as well as those who have come to speak at this podium on a variety of issues. Recently, I have felt that the opportunity to look at an issue from a broader perspective has been lost before making a final decision. One of these issues is Victoria Hall. Tonight, I invite council to look at the heritage of Victoria Hall in a different perspective. During the official opening of Heritage Week, I heard a deeply inspiring performance of O Canada from an elementary student here in Aurora. We heard the importance of celebrating and preserving our past for the people of tomorrow. I also heard that our heritage was not just a building, but the history of the people within these buildings who were the foundation and the strength of the community of Aurora today. A friend of mine gave me a historical overview of Victoria Hall. The building housed a church, a library, a public health programs, a meeting place for local organizations, and even a dance studio. Within the walls of Victoria Hall, the people of the community were provided with the space for spiritual growth, for education, for medical needs, and a social networking, to just name a few. From my view, I see this as the legacy of Victoria Hall. I ask you, why can't this be Victoria's Hall legacy for today? A hub for social needs of today's community. For example, a meeting place for youth to do homework, to listen to music, for programs like Out of the Cold or community breakfasts provided by local churches, for historical collections of different genres, for social clubs, etc., etc. I have heard that Victoria Hall is in much need of repairs to make it useful and safe for the community once again. I have heard that $500,000 to $800,000 would cover the cost to rebuild Victoria Hall to a point that would preserve the structure to the point of reclaiming its legacy in a hub of community needs. I understand that the project to refurbish the Victoria Hall has ballooned to over $2 million, which is available and can be accommodated from the facility asset management and growth and new reserves. This is a big chunk of money. It could be going towards many other heritage buildings and projects within this town. Isn't that just common sense? Tonight, I stand here urging the council to take a step back and consider what legacy you want for Victoria Hall before making a final decision on the proposed Victoria Hall refurbishment budget being presented here tonight. Thank you. Your resident fly on the wall.
Thank you, Ms. Dayfoot. Okay, Councillor, can I get a motion to receive and refer? Councillor Kim, Councillor Gallo, any questions? Councillor Gallo?
I don't have a question, but I have to acknowledge, I've seen many 14 years worth of delegations, and Ms. Dayfoot, your eloquence, your passion, your compassion, no matter where we stand on this issue, cannot be ignored. Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Dayfoot, thank you very much for coming this evening. Call the vote. Councillor Gillen? Yes. That carries. Council move to consent agenda. Someone want to move consent agenda? Councillor Gillen, Councillor Kim, is there any comments or questions on the consent agenda? Call the vote. Carries. Move to committee of the whole meeting report of January 13. Are there any items that anyone wants pulled? No? Can I get a motion then to Councillor Gowan?
Sorry, what do we put in? What are we on?
Any items that anyone wants pulled?
8.32, please.
Okay,
8.52 and 881, please.
any other items to be pulled? Councillor Gardner? I'll repeat them in a sec, Councillor. I'll repeat them in a sec. Councillor Gardner?
881 and Councillor Weese's motion.
881's already pulled. Okay. You bringing something new to that? Yeah,
I pulled 882. I thought
you said 881.
then I'm.
So you want
Moment,
8?
one. I think the heritage one first. Yeah. 88, my apology, 882. Thank you. For sure.
Okay, and you have something new for those?
I wasn't here last meeting to speak to that.
Okay. Thank you. Any others? 8 point, yeah.
A31, please.
Any others? A motion to approve remaining items minus 8.3.1, 8.3.2, 8.5.2, 8.8.1, 8.8.2, and 8.9.1. Councillor Kim, Councillor Gallo. Call the vote. That carries. Move to 8.3.1. Councillor Weese, you pulled this. Did you want to move the recommendation? Seconder? Councillor Kim, go ahead, Councillor Weese.
All I'm interested in is a question. Last week I asked about the budget at, which is identified at $250,000. And I asked about that in terms of the total cost of it. And it was, and I just want that confirmed. Ms. McDougall told me about it after the fact, but I wanted it to become public that in fact was the budget, $250K. So through you to the treasurer.
Ms. Evan Kessel. I think we got Ms. McDougall on line, but
Through
go ahead,
Mr. Mayor, I'd have to look it up.
Ms. McDougall, did you want to respond to that? Go ahead.
Certainly, pardon my voice. The community reflection space project is valued at $250,000. That's the approved project value for that item. The other items with regards to the parking area, that's a totally separate project and has its own budget item.
Councillor.
Thank you. That's the answer I was looking for.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. McDougall.
Any other comments or questions? Call a vote. Carries. 8.3.2. Councillor Gallo, you pulled this. Did you want to move the recommendation? Yep. Seconder. Councillor Reese, go ahead, Councillor Gallo.
Thank you. I have several serious concerns about that must be addressed before any decision is made on this matter. First, council was not properly informed. We met in closed session in April, but that meeting was not about structural deficiencies. It was explicitly to discuss a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land. The engineering and structural findings from May 2025, which identified the deficiencies that ultimately led to the increased project cost, were not provided to council at the time they were completed. Council only received that May report last week, and only after it was specifically requested. This means that material information affecting the cost of a major capital project existed for months and was not disclosed to council. That same structural review led directly to the Class D estimated dated December 1st, 2025, which identified construction costs in excess of $2 million. That estimate existed before December 7th, when the mayor's 2026 budget was adopted. Yet the budget continued to reflect only $500,000 for this project. Council was not advised of the structural findings when they were discovered. Council was not provided the May engineering report when it was completed. Council was not advised of the Class D estimate before the budget was adopted. Council was not given the opportunity to properly review or consider this information before the mayor finalized the capital budget. This is particularly important because under strong mayor powers, the capital budget is the mayor's budget. The mayor has the authority not only to present the budget, but also to amend it and bring forward changes when material financial information becomes known. The mayor also controls the agenda and determines when matters are brought forward to council. The mayor had ample time and full authority to act. From May 2025, when the structural report was completed, to December 1st, when the Class D estimate confirmed the increased cost, and again before the budget was adopted on December 7th, there was sufficient time to amend the budget and advise council. And even after the budget was adopted, the mayor retained the authority to amend the budget and bring this matter forward. To suggest that it was somehow too late to amend the budget is simply not accurate. The issue is not timing. The issue is council was not informed. I also want to address whether this project should proceed at all in its current form. We are now being asked to increase the project budget from $500,000 to to over 2 million, more than 4 times the original amount. Council has not reviewed a public report demonstrating the return on investment at this new cost level. This fundamentally changes the financial reality of this project. Council has a duty to also ask whether this level of investment represents the best and most responsible use of public funds. We must seriously consider whether we should pause, reset, and evaluate whether this project should proceed, whether its scope should be reconsidered, or whether these funds should be allocated more effectively to other priorities that deliver greater value to our residents. Finally, I want to speak plainly. Moving a vote under these conditions does not reflect the standard of leadership our residents expect. Leadership means ensuring that every councillor at this table, each with a fiduciary responsibility to our residents, has all the necessary information in adequate time to review and discuss it. Anything less undermines that responsibility. Given the clear gaps in disclosure, the timing of the structural findings, the existence of reports council did not receive until recently, and the financial magnitude of this decision, it is appropriate that this matter be referred to closed session so that council can receive full and complete information, including specific details that cannot be discussed publicly, and ask the necessary questions required to fulfill our fiduciary responsibility to the residents of Aurora before any final decision is made. I'll leave it to the colleagues. I'll put forward that motion, Mr. Mayor, once, but I'd like to hear everyone else first.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Weese.
Thank you. I had a long group of things that Councillor Gallo has picked up on, so I won't go through those again, outside of the fact that this is really not about heritage or preservation of heritage. This is about process, as far as I'm concerned. And so it's well known, and many of the heritage applications that come through are from Ward 1 because it's the oldest part of the town. I sit on the Heritage Advisory, or don't sit on the Heritage Advisory Committee. I meet with them regularly, and I understand the importance of preservation. And I thank the delegates that came forward with different attitudes about things, whether it be financial or the purpose of heritage. So I listened to them intently, and I thank them for that. With respect to the reserve balance question that you asked about, Mr. Deane, I think the reserve balances have been published. At least I recall publication of that, and I hope that you can find those. If not, you can ask me about them because I think I have those somewhere. The scope is really an issue here, and I have a number of questions about that Councillor Gallo brought forward. About the excesses and the fact that we don't have adequate information. I just don't want to be an accomplice on this by voting on behalf of this to make it move forward because we want to preserve the building. I think we need to look at the building and look at the use of the building for heritage purposes, and that the renovation of this building should suit those purposes. So I don't, in the absence of any of the information that we have to identify the scope of this and what the use of it may be, I just think this is premature, and I won't be voting for this going forward.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have to preserve this building. It's under the Ontario Heritage Trust, which does not dictate what we do with it. But we have to ensure that it stands and is one of the 2 remaining buildings of in the town, I believe, of Gothic. And it's a beautiful building. My concern is, well, Councillor Gallo has mentioned them, as has Councillor Weese, But this project was not in the 10-year capital repair and replacement reserve. It was not in our 10-year capital plan. So that reserve fund is already substantially in deficit without adding a new project. And that is very concerning to me, and I think is concerning to some of our taxpayers, because the purpose of that fund is to manage long-term sustainability of our infrastructure, our buildings. I see that it's online, it's been divided up into many different categories, but it is to manage and maintain for the residents the long-term sustainability of our infrastructure. And looking at the AECOM study, it is very clear that we have to ensure that any projects that we do will have financial security and will provide adequate levels of revenue to the town. We don't know that. We haven't looked at that. I think the taxpayers would like to know that. And finally, it's just alarming to me how this was presented to council. It's been covered by Councillor Gallo, but it's not the way I want to be responsible to the taxpayers. So definitely think this needs to go into closed session. And I'd like to know how this process happened or lack of process happened. I'm not going to ask anyone, perhaps Mr. CAO at some point, but we have a process to follow. So why didn't we? And we need to be accountable to the taxpayers for that process. Thank you.
Councillor Gillen.
Thank you. I appreciate all the comments from the delegates and the council colleagues as well. I have some comments and questions of my own. I know that there was some additional information in this report and so forth that was provided to council afterwards. My question to staff, given that staff have confirmed that the 1883 floor will eventually have to be replaced regardless of the option that we choose today, can staff clearly determine whether deferring a comprehensive restoration like this would ultimately result in higher costs due to phase disruption or remotable, I can't speak today, or just inflation in general?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's a reasonable assumption that if we defer construction, then yes, future cost will increase. The problem with the underlying floor is it's actually been built up upon. So there's the existing 143-year-old flooring structure, and then at some course in time, someone built another flooring system above that. So there's actually two flooring systems within the building. So any restoration work to the underlying floor, the original floor, we would still have to demolish a significant amount to get to it. So in the engineering study, it was just recommended to do the slab on grade, which would be the most efficient construction for it.
Councillor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I also just wanted to make some comments because, I did look up, the old budget sheet. I'm just trying to get out of this so I can find it. But essentially, this was a sheet that was provided to us in 2024. So I'm just hearing some comments about process and how did we get here. And I'm just trying to find where this sheet is. Excuse me while I try and find this sheet. So specifically within the project overview, just so everybody to clarify, says in 2024, consulting engineer architectural firm was retained to conduct a feasibility study of Victoria Hall building. The scope of work included visual assessments, review of the historic designation status, and the review of previous condition assessment reports. I guess my point is, and it does suggest that there's going to be a high level Class D estimate as well, is that we asked for this to happen in 2024. We knew that this was coming. So I want to put to bed, this is not something we're surprised that this is coming forward. Now that the price changed, yes, the price changed. And when it comes to historic buildings, you never know what you're going to uncover. And anybody that's done any restoration to any historical building will tell you that. And of course, this is what it's come back with. And let's not mention, we've already seen a lot of inflationary change in the last couple of years. So I just want to put that out there. This is not a new project that we had thought about. We had talked about this for a couple of years now. And are we getting the results of this number today and now? Yes, that's kind of where we're at. The other information I wanted to bring to attention as well, and I mean, I don't know if my fellow colleagues had picked up on it, but this is certainly something that I picked up on in the official plan that we just approved. And I was very specific in asking our director of planning about this at the time we were approving our official plan, and that was a designation of the downtown promenade area. And this particular area was approved and expanded upon to be designated, I believe it's through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Romano, PD1 or something or other. If you could expand, just to kind of explain what that means, that we all adopted and agreed.
Mr. Romano.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so the property within Town Square and some of the surrounding properties are within our official plan designation of our promenade area and designated for mixed uses. And some of the properties in that area are also zoned under our zoning bylaw with the associated sort of zoning of promenade downtown uses, which permits a variety of mixed uses.
Councillor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And this was not just reaffirming what we already had. This is something that was new. So if we didn't know, you didn't know about it, then that's your bad. But the reality is when I say that, I mean, my colleagues or whoever was not really, or maybe the public, I don't know, but who didn't know, but I knew. I specifically asked about it. And I was very excited to know that we had made some changes because we were trying to revitalize our downtown and allow some changes and shifts to occur within our official, with our downtown area in that specific zoned area. So some uses could be a bed and breakfast, institutional uses, commercial, tourist, financial institutions. It could be many different uses in that area. And it doesn't just encompass Victoria Hall area, but it's that whole square on both sides where some of the existing residential homes are. So I just want to throw that out there because I think it's an important point that we all understand that we chose to make this redesignation of this area, knowing full well that some of these types of changes and conversions may happen. And I'm sorry, I have one quick question and I'm going to move it to one of my other colleagues. I know I've taken up a lot of time. With the benefit of the updated, through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Stitt, with the benefit of the updated structural findings, can staff please outline the expected lifespan of the building under a minimal repair approach versus a comprehensive restoration approach, if you will, so council can really understand the duration of each service investment that would we be realistically providing?
Stitt.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, like I identified earlier, the flooring system, we don't know the lifespan on it. It was identified in the engineering report that if you're going to build anything, it's not advisable to build anything on top of that. They didn't provide a lifespan on it. As I identified earlier, to get at and repair the existing structure, we would have to extensively demolish the entire flooring system anyways. Simply just either repair all of the underlying structure, or we would just demolish it and continue with the slab on grade on it.
Councillor.
Thank you. I think my time's,
It is up.
I will pass it along. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And certainly, I think many, some in council and those in public certainly got sticker shock, as did I last week. And certainly $2.1 million is a lot of money for a renovation cost. but with most instances of sticker shock, after the initial shock wears away, you get to the rational thought of going through why it costs that much and how that occurred. You know, based on the delegation that we heard today and last week and everywhere in between, it seems like there's intonation of either there was a question staff competency or process or policy. And so through you, Mr. Mayor, to staff, I think there's gaps that's been brought forward today. And I'm just wondering if staff, whether it be Ms. McDougall or Mr. Nadarasny, can just summarize some of those gaps that's been outlined since the 2016 ACOM quote to the quote we received, I think it was 21 and then finally in 24. Just to justify what the 2.1 million is for. And before staff responds to that, through you, Mr. Mayor, to staff, can you also confirm that 2.1 is the base minimum that needs to be invested in this property to have this property safe for any future use?
Yeah.
Through Mr. Mayor, I'll answer the second question first. I don't think there is an opportunity to do value engineering for a minimal use and to scope this down. The floor needs to be replaced. There may be a cheaper solution. That was the recommended solution from the consultants, and that's one we brought forward. So, you know, if we simply want to just do the absolute minimum, do the floor, do the other exterior things that were talked about earlier as part of the original capital program, there may be a way to bring that number down. To answer the first question, it's a difficult one to summarize quickly because it's got a long history. The 2016 review was a very superficial review. They basically came in and measured all the walls, created an architectural drawing, and then compared that building, the size of it, where the entrances were, and contemplated some future uses. And based on that, they gave a renovation cost for the existing, the old part of the building. And then the consultant at the time, 10 years ago, said you might want to just take that piece off the back. The floors don't line up and so on. And they gave a separate price for that. And that was the, I think, $500,000 or $600,000 estimate from going back to 2016. Since then, and this isn't by any means a comprehensive review of all the steps, but the major points that bring us to today. Council will recall we were given direction as staff to consider a possible alternate use for that building. It wasn't approved. It was suggested that we go back and do some more work with someone that had responded to the request for proposals. That direction was given by council to staff. And so from that point on, we were trying to figure out, you know, what's the best way to get this packaged up and bring it back to council for potentially an alternate use. In that, as we contemplated that work, two things that we felt we were lacking information for a comprehensive review. One was really what lurked underneath that floor. The original consultant in 2016 did not do a survey of the conditions underneath. The floor seemed fine. There was nothing obvious from a visual perspective that the floor was about to give way or anything like that. So it wasn't part of their 2016 assessment. And we also discovered that before we could go to a tender or to get any kind of detailed work, we also needed a designated substance review, which is a common part of a big project like that, to see, especially for a building that old, is there lead, is there asbestos, is there other things that would complicate a renovation? So that level of detail was never done 10 years ago. So that was all done as part of potentially bringing back to council an alternate use that we had shared with council previously. As that work was done, that's when the dry rot of the floor was discovered. That wasn't costed. That was brought up in May. We had the same consultant go back and do a more detailed review of that building. We identified those areas where we needed some more information, and they were the ones that determined the situation with the dry rot and also the structure of the floor itself being a floor built on top of a floor. So that resulted in there not being an easy fix to that, as Mr. Kitt has Mr. Stitt has already explained. At the same time, we're also trying to consider packaging this as if this, one way or another, there's going to have to be a repair done. And it may be also an alternative use that would be approved at a future date. So we're trying to not create two separate projects. We're trying to have the opportunity to do either just a restoration or a reuse. If the reuse was to happen, the best economies of scale for all involved would be to do all of that work at once. So there was quite a bit of work done with the proponent to isolate the costs that would be attributed to that other use, so that when we do come with the final package, we could bring those details to council and they can make a decision on the alternative use. The package that's before you today and was before you at Committee of the Whole was that portion of the work that was recommended by the consultants to fully restore the building for the long-term viability of the structure. It has the costs, any costs for an alternative use are separate and would be brought forward at another time and would presumably be paid for by the proponent of the alternative use. So it's on that basis that we bought a Class D estimate. It's really to ask council, where do you want to go with this? It's a significantly larger cost. It's an old historical building. To speak to some of the other comments, there's no ROI on something like a building like this that you are looking for your return on investment. If it's a community space, there's no return on investment. It's just an investment that you make to have the space available. And commercially, I don't know if somebody, I think it's a small building. My sense would be that there wouldn't be a pure commercial ROI to buy that building and to do the level of work that's contemplated here for the size of the space. I think it would be difficult to recover those costs. So that is why the pause or this point we brought, what we brought to council was to show the change in what we had discovered in terms of the structural problems. And the other thing that once as I've explained to a couple of individuals, once we were in that level of demolition of the interior floor, we absolutely did reconsider the original proposal that we brought was to save some money, just to leave the old structure back on. It was sort of physically, not falling apart. It needed some work. It had floors that were offset from the main building, but it wasn't structurally falling down, which was the case with the Armory building, where we did have to demolish the piece that had been added on many years ago. But when we got into a complete reconstruction of the floors, tearing everything down to that level, we decided that it made sense to do a more holistic approach to give council the full spectrum of what could be done with that site when if you're gonna consider that kind of a restoration. So it's on that basis that the revised quote was brought forward. And to tie it back to your second question, Councillor Kim, certainly we could get another proposal done with the old space left on, and how we would manage the only complication with that is the flooring, because of the levels of the different flooring, and to get a wheelchair accessible or an AODA compliant entrance to the building. So we'd have to consider how that could be done. The easiest way to do all of that was to redo the back structure as well. And it also afforded us the opportunity, as we've shared, to more visually integrate it with Town Square, which is one of the other objectives of the reuse of Victoria Hall. Again, I don't mean to make that like the comprehensive review of every step. There was multiple little studies in between and other consultants that were brought in various stages certainly between May and December, but that's how we come to the December number, and that's how we came to the report that's before council today.
Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Nedrasny. I, for one, believe that, we have one of the most competent and professional staff in York Region. Sure, there could have been ways to mitigate the shock value of the sticker price, likely. But I do believe that these figures that are given to us is essentially a figure that provides council and the town the most flexibility to provide the most, broadest range of usage for this building. In the end, we've all heard that there's three options here. We either sell it, we renovate it, or we demolish it. Demolishing it is not an option. Leaving it as is not an option, because we can't do anything with it because it's not safe to even go in. this $2.1 million, is that a lot of money? It certainly is. My view of the funds is, there's a cash component of a financial ledger, and there's also an asset component. And whatever we put into this building, whether it's $500,000 or $2.1 million, our assets are, the value of our assets is still the same. So the only thing I can conclude is that, in the report, the toxic elements that have to be eliminated, the dual roofing issues and the flooring, this is, more than just a home reno that went from 100 to 120,000. So if it's 2.1 million, then we're going to have to make a decision that, we either sell it or leave it as is, or if we actually want to do something with it, that's going to have to be the price tag.
Councillor Gartner, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think when we are thinking about the residents and their tax dollars and what they want in that residential neighborhood, what are our goals and what are our responsibilities? And to me, that is to preserve the heritage building, to celebrate the Gothic revival architecture. And I am not interested in changing the use, adding a use. If you look at the funding model, we've got money from the Facility Asset Management Reserve, which will be overdrawn. It doesn't show it in the charts now, but the 10-year perspective is such. And the 1.682 million is coming from growth and new. And I've always understood that growth and new is, I'm going to read it, to manage the infrastructure and service demands stemming from new population growth, expansion, and long-term development. We can use it, as we heard at the table a couple of weeks ago, we can use it. We can change the use and use this money for, let's say, a restaurant. But that's not the primary use or purpose of the growth and new. It's to make sure that our new population is accommodated properly. And I don't think that they're particularly going to care if there's a restaurant in this building or not. We have, my goodness, in this area, we have the Armory, we've got the cafe at the town square. We want to revitalize Yonge Street, and one of the ways to do that is with restaurants. This is primarily a residential area. The other concern I have, and it shows it in the ACOM report on, I believe it's page 28, it shows the structure, and next to the structure, there's a large empty space. I don't know, is this for parking? This contains people's homes right now. I don't think we're tearing down people's homes for parking. We already have an issue with parking in the area. We have some residents from the area who know this all too well. They're already coping with the noise and light from the town square, from the Armory. I think what we need to do is respect the heritage of this building and leave it at that. And I think if you would do a survey, an official survey of this area, you would find out that that's what the residents would want. So I'm speaking out of hand about that. I just see a lot of head nods. I'm really concerned about spending more money in this. This is a Class D estimate. This is, wow. The cost of this could go much higher. And as people have said, it's a heritage property. It could go much higher. So if I'm looking at the money, where it's coming from, what this might do to the neighborhood, respecting heritage, I would definitely have to vote against this. And I think a lot of people in the town of Aurora, not only those living in the immediate area, I've heard from people all over town. That's guess what we're doing, with an exclamation mark and question mark. So I will be voting against this.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It kind of reminds me, it's been referenced multiple times about the ACON study that was done in 2016 and repurposing. At that time, there was a lot of comments around what were we going to do with the old senior center, what were we going to do with the old library. Again, today we have an underutilized asset in Victoria Hall. Back then, we were talking about having the underutilized assets of not just Victoria Hall, but the old senior center, the old library, and what we were going to do. And that's really what spurred part of the repurposing study, to be able to look at these options to try and figure out going forward, because these buildings all were in disrepair. They all needed repairs. It's a public document. It's, the library, I think the quote was around $3 million. The old senior center was 600. And at that time in 2016, I believe as Mr. Nadarozny referenced, Victoria Hall with the addition was going to be $600,000 as well. And it really wasn't until there was some confidence around council about what could potentially be the future use or the future vision for, that time we were calling it Library Square, but what eventually became Town Square, that we made the decision around the old senior center and the old library and move forward with it. And, today I'm very proud that we've made those decisions, because as a result, we have Town Square, we have a wonderful new addition. It's been well received from the community, and it was a good choice, but it was a challenging one, and it took a long time to get there. And part of the struggle was what was going to happen, and you had to get buy-in in council to be able to agree on some degree of vision. And the biggest step we had was the demolition of the senior center and the old library, because that really forced us then to move forward and say, okay, we're no longer going to talk about repurposing. Let's figure out what the vision is for this empty space. Still took some time, but we got there. Again, now we have a similar conversation where we have an underutilized asset that is just sitting there. And we need to make a decision to go forward with this asset. And how are we going to utilize it? I think from what I've heard around the table, everybody's in agreement that we're not looking to rebuild on this site. We want to utilize the current building in the best possible way. So my question through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Nadarozny, and I know you've answered this in multiple ways, but once again, to reiterate, regardless of the use, whether it's community space, whether it's a commercial usage or some others, these renovations still need to be done. Is that correct?
Mr. Nadarozny.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the replacement of the floor has to be done, and the building should be made AODA compliant. So yes, the lion's share of these renovations would have to be done. As I said earlier, there may be a cheaper solution to keep the addition on and reduce the cost from what is proposed, but that is the most effective way to get one floor throughout the whole building as proposed.
Councillor.
Thank you. And as what's been shared earlier, there have been comments that the council, has been involved in on potential interests, potential uses. And we've always had kind of a vision to continue to utilize these assets to help reinvigorate our downtown core. All of Town Square is to be at some point a driver for the downtown core. We still haven't necessarily done anything with the other asset we own in terms of the commercial space at the corner. But again, we've had conversations time after time about it. And at some point, there will be a vision. At some point, there probably will be something coming forward. It may be many years down the road. But again, all of Town Square is going to have some sort of development over time to help drive the revigorization of the downtown core. With respect, going back to Victoria Hall, I'm quite happy that to support Councillor Gallo's request for further discussion, further information about how we got there, how the reports came about, the lack of information, to have more transparency. I'm comfortable with that. But at the same time, I'm parking that issue because I think it's important that we move forward this and continue on this path for the development of Town Square and supporting the renovation to the existing facility, the asset, Victoria Hall, so that we can move forward with some of the things that we've talked about in terms of future uses and adding, complementing what is available to the public downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Mr. Gallo, second time.
Thank you. I mean, I'll repeat it. It's been said around this table. This debate here is not about heritage. I think we're all on the same page in terms of our desire to maintain and save and keep our heritage in conditions that are respectable. That's not the issue here, and I don't think anyone is debating that. The issue here, while somewhat tangential, is not even its use. That's not what really brought us here. The report from staff isn't talking about use, isn't talking about saving heritage. It's about asking us to increase the budget from 500,000 to over 2 million. That's what we're here for. And that's what we should be talking about. And through you, Mr. Mayor, I asked for the Class D estimate in particular to be made public. And I was told that it could not be. And we had to have some release from the company that supplied it. And I asked also whether we've contacted that company to ask whether or not it could be released. And I have not heard back, Mr. Mayor. If someone at the table has that answer, that would be great.
Stitt?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we did reach out to the consulting firm about the release of the Class D estimate. They did respond, and they noted that they do not have any objection to going public or releasing the Class D estimate. However, they did note that the following notes also be considered and communicated. That is that the cost estimate is very high level and based on preliminary schematic design. The cost estimate is considered Class D cost estimate, as the project design and drawings are further developed in coordination with stakeholders and service providers are finalized during the detailed design phase, which includes design development phase and construction document phase. Additional estimates are recommended before the tender. This cost estimate does not involve detailed review of the existing site condition. Exclusions are noted in the cost estimate cover page, which includes costs of third-party inspections, unknown site conditions, and soil-specific costs, and that costs associated with the transformer is not included.
Councillor.
So this is news to me because as council members are well aware, I tried to ask whether this document could be made public. And as you're all aware, you are on the emails that I was told it could not be until I asked whether we can ask them to release it. And here it is. Would have been nice before this meeting so that we could have shared this information with the public. So am I to understand through you, Mr. Mayor, to either our solicitor or to whomever, can I now quote that document?
Madam Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is still considered not public, even though the architect or whoever it is, the engineer, the person who wrote it, is okay with it because there are parts that we have to review because it's my understanding there might be some personal information and other information through MFIPA that might not be able to be disclosed. In addition, so this wasn't part of my report in saying that all consulting reports moving forward be released. So if this is released, I would suggest that this would need a direction from council because typically we do not release cost estimates midstream, mid-project.
Councillor.
Okay. So We seem to be okay with it. The consultant seems to be okay with it. I'll leave it up to you who's blocking this, and you can make your own conclusions. And the reason I say this and the importance of that document is because we've heard things tonight about costing, particularly slab on grade, probably one of the cheapest things you could do in a reservation, concrete. And I wish I could quote it, but I can't. Perhaps someday all of you will see it. And there are many, many more questions that I have. And quite frankly, I don't know why we followed this process when we could have had many of these discussions and questions answered in closed session, so we wouldn't have to skirt around issues out here. That should have been done first, and we could have hashed out any questions that we had with documents that are not public, and that's fair. I don't want to be discussing documents that are not public, but I have questions about them, and I haven't had the opportunity yet. I'm being asked to vote for $2.1 million. Does that make any sense to anyone? It doesn't to me. I have questions that I can't get answered. And I value the opinions of my colleagues at this table. If I have a question or someone else has a question, it triggers something in me. It can't be done through email like it's been done so far. It just can't happen. Not this level of money that we're talking about. And the extent to which it increased. That's the real issue. And those are the answers that I need. And I have questions about that document that don't connect with me. I have questions whether or not anything in that estimate has anything to do with a potential commercial tenant in there. I don't know. And I need to know. And I need to know whether there is a return on investment. I get it if it's a commercial, if it's a community space, we don't look at that. If we're investing in our own buildings for ourselves, I get that. But if it's not that, and we're looking to generate some revenue, then those financials need to be shown. And I haven't had it. I believe we're all on the same page. And nobody is saying let's not move forward with restoring Victoria Hall. Questions need to be answered. I'm suggesting we go into closed session to accomplish that, so that everything is flushed out, and then we can move forward in a responsible way. So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to put that motion on the floor. Doesn't have to be tonight. We pick a date.
To move into, I need to know the purpose of moving into closed session, because I got our clerk saying, Madam Clerk, did you want to?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the report before you as written is not a report that fits into one of the exemptions that's set out in the Municipal Act to bring a matter to a closed session. So in addition, there isn't an agenda for a closed session meeting, and therefore there wouldn't be transparency to bring it at this time. If you're looking to do it at a future date, you could refer it to staff, but not refer it to staff to bring to closed session. It would have to be referred to staff to contemplate whether there is a report that can be done that can be brought to closed session. But this report as written cannot go directly to closed session.
Councillor?
Oh, geez, the obstacles just add on. Can I just ask a question? The $500,000 that we budgeted for, how did that, how did that come before us?
Mr. Mayor, Van Kessel?
through
Councillor,
you,
this will be your last question because we're at 6 minutes. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor, Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that
Clock
was
didn't stop
established
when
as part of the
this area was speaking,
2025
Mr.
budget.
Mayor.
It was established as part of the 2025 budget as the estimate. I'm not sure exactly. I can't remember exactly who provided it, but it was provided to finance as a $500,000 estimate.
Councillor?
So council made a decision through the budget process? That's how it came to light?
Yep.
Really? Right.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Kim, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. since I came on council in 2014, and the common themes that came up repeatedly was, I need more information. I need more time. A lack of transparency. And one thing I recall writing to myself as a note back in, I think it was 2017, was by staying neutral or doing nothing, we go from having nothing to be ashamed of, but being ashamed of doing nothing. In 2015-16, when we had a reinvigorated vision for downtown revitalization, we went through the 3 phases. That took a long time, but finally we got the Armory, got Town Square, and in between there we had the Hallmark lands and the resulting baseball diamonds, the gymnasium at the Sark. And each time there was always some kind of or level of shock. And each time there was always voices that said we need more time, or I didn't have time to read this. It's not a great use of taxpayer money. But I like to believe that I like to move the business of the town and the vision for a greater Aurora, where there's a great community benefit, not a small one, but a great community benefit. And so we have to get over the initial sticker shock and move ahead to what the possibilities can be. So we can't let fear guide our decision in saying, this is $2.1 million. But why not think about the vision of what that $2.1 million can represent? Because, we just heard the Aurora Economic Development Corporation talk about what we've accomplished over the last 12 months and what we hope to accomplish in 2026. And part of that, and a big chunk of that, is downtown revitalization, which we've talked about quite a bit. We're building momentum. Victoria Hall is part of the downtown square, downtown revitalization, which we've all mentioned today and in past meetings. So I come back to my note about staying neutral and not being ashamed of doing nothing. And so I think there's shame in doing nothing. So, or delaying, or.
What's the point of order?
I'm offended by the terms that Councillor Kim is using. There's no shame in what we're doing here.
Fair, Councillor, but I think we could argue that some of the comments that you made could be pointed in the same direction, talking about misdirection, misleading, all that kind of stuff.
And call me out of order, Mr. Mayor, and we could have discussed that. That's not what I'm referring to.
I don't see any issue with Councillor Kim's comment. He's not talking to any individual councillor. He's talking in generalities.
Oh, you're speaking for him.
That's the way I'm taking it. If you're taking it a different way, I'd say that's on you. Go ahead, Councillor Kim.
So I'd like to put an amendment and for the staff recommendation for the requested funds of 2.1 million and proceed.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Thompson? Pardon? Staff recommendation is what Councillor, I believe Councillor Kim messaged before. Councillor Kim?
That's it.
Any other comments, questions? Amendment? Councillor Gillen?
Thank you. I've heard a lot around the council table, and it's a very emotional topic. There's no doubt about that. And I've heard both sides. I'm very conflicted either way, but at the end of the day, I fundamentally am just looking at the original point. And the original point is to bring up Victoria Hall to a standard that's compliant to our building codes, AD compliant, has safe electrical, and has a building that will be legendary for the next 75 years. This is a building that we have refurbished a few times in its lifetimes by other councils over the years. And it's not really a question of whether or not Victoria Hall requires an investment. It needs an investment. I think we've all established that today, and we didn't foresee that the minimum of this was going to be as much as it is. But I believe that what's being presented from staff and what we've asked is minimally the structure that it needs in order to move forward to keep it. I've heard from the delegates and I've heard from council members that no one's interested in demoing it. We've talked about all how much we want to treasure the heritage aspect of this. So it's a matter of, if we're going to refurbish this, to what extent? And from my understanding, this is the minimum. There's a floorboard there that we couldn't predict. And Councillor Gardner, I think it was you that made the amendment to the budget in 2024 supporting the Victoria Hall refurbishments. So yeah, I think our hearts are all in the same place here. And I don't think that there's going to be an outcome that's really going to change today or 2 months from now. I think it's going to be the same. Staff confirmed that the original 1883 floors has significant dry rot, and it will be replaced. So the decision before us is not whether to invest, but whether to do it strategically now or reactively later. And that distinction really matters. Because deferring does not eliminate the cost, it delays. And often when it gets delayed, it's with greater expense over time. And that's ultimately what we've seen with anything that we've been purchasing today. And so we need to decide whether we want a short-term repair or we want a long-term solution. And I asked that question earlier when we were chatting before with Mr. Sid, like, are we investing for something that's going to need repair again in another 2 years and another 2 years and another 2 years? Are we actually going to do this right the first time? And so it can stand for about 75. And that's what I feel like that's being put before us today. I know that this has not been easy. This has been something it's been discussed over the years, even prior to me. It's been, like I said, before other councils, and it was served as a church, a library, a gathering space, and it's met the needs of many generations of Aurora, and now it's our turn. So I really do want to address the skepticism in the council chambers with the residents as well as council around this decision. And they're all valid, and we have the responsibility to ensure that, you know, our funds are being spent wisely. And at the same time, it's also our fiscal responsibility, not about choosing the cheapest option today, but about protecting the asset and what we have. I have no interest in wanting to lose this asset. I want to keep this asset, and I want to ensure that we invest in something that's going to be sacred for generations to come. I think that delaying this will cost more, and I think that it would be irresponsible for us to just do Band-Aid solutions. This dry rot floor thing, you have to do it. What is the expense that we're going to do or cut on the bare basics of what we're trying to achieve? I don't know what we're cutting, but it seems to me that there's some magic thing we're going to cut to make it work. And I don't see it happening. Today we have a choice to defer the responsibility or to address it properly and secure the building's future for the next generations to come. Not because it's easy, because it's responsible.
Yes, thank you.
To the amendment?
Yes, indeed it is. I'm not in favor of this amendment. I'm more in favor of another amendment that will ask the staff to go back and bring an appropriate response back to closed session I don't think there's any emotion in this. At least there isn't for me. If there is for other people, this is a sound decision that should be made on facts, and we don't have those facts. I don't have those facts. And I'm not going to be complicit with a lack of facts that are not provided in here and vote in favor of something that residents have explained they don't want. It's in my ward, which is relatively important from a heritage standpoint. We have a lot of other heritage opportunities that we have with Hillary House and others that we have eschewed at this point in favor of this. And if somebody thinks that this dry rot is worth $1.6 million, I'm no builder, but that doesn't make any sense to me. So I'd like to see some facts. I'd like to see where they are. And if in another 2 or 3 weeks or a month or 6 weeks, whatever it takes, in order to be sound about what we're making, I'm ready to wait. And I don't get frightened by some inflationary atmosphere that we have out there that suddenly 1.6 million is going to go to 2.5 million. Come on, we have to have a bit of understanding of how the world works here, and I'm not frightened with that. So I think we need to stand firm here. We need to gather the facts, and we have to make decisions based on facts, not on emotion.
Councillor Thompson.
You know, I would agree that the process is flawed. In my opinion, and to the best of my recollection, every single capital project of this kind of magnitude has been flawed in the initial estimate. The JOC, the AFLC, the armory, the gymnasium, even the fire station, almost every single one of them, town square, almost every single one of them, the initial budgetary placeholder we put in the asset management is woefully inadequate. It's undervalued almost every single time because we don't, to your point, have any facts. It's not until we get that first real detailed estimate, which we have today, that says it's $2.1 million. It's unfortunate, and this has been brought up time and time again, but part of the struggle we have is that we put these placeholders in the budget for, asset management reasons. But whenever we get to this point, almost inevitably, the cost escalates and everybody says, what happened? And to me, that's, again, the issue is that initial placeholder that we put in there, and that's all it ever is a placeholder, is flawed. It never was going to be $500,000. I think Councillor Gallo asked the question, how did we come up with that 500,000? And I didn't really hear any good detailed answer. We stuck it there as a placeholder, but it was wrong. And that's the flaw in the process. And I've seen it time and time and time again. And we need to get better at that because it's not fair to the residents because of course the residents see, an increase of this magnitude. Of course, they're going to get concerned. Of course, they're going to be worried. But if at the end of the day, if we didn't have that escalation, right? If we would have just had the detailed estimate and provided it right from there, perhaps some would be accepting of it. Perhaps they still wouldn't. Perhaps they would still think that it's not a good use of their money, and that's completely understandable. But I think part of it is the optics of this increase from $500 to $2.1 million. And part of the problem is the process is flawed because we stuck an artificial price into our asset management of $500,000, and it never was. The true issue is this is the first real estimate we've had, and this is the first real piece of fact that we have that the true cost is 2.1. Whether you agree with it or not, that's open to debate, and that's absolutely acceptable. The truth is that if we want to refurbish Victoria Hall, if we want to use it, whether it's for public use or for commercial use, we need to do this. And we have the estimates, but I still stand by the fact that I'm happy to have those further conversations. I think, again, we got to keep looking at these capital projects and stop undervaluing what the true cost is. Because not a single one of these projects have ever come in close to the original budgetary figures. There've been multiples of what we put there. And we need to do a better job of that. I'll be in support of the amendment.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought I saw some financials that supported that amount of money, or perhaps it was 600,000 from ACOM. So I think it was based on an estimated fact, if you can call it that. I just want to repeat, we can't tear this building down. It's heritage, so we are never intending to tear it down. The second thing is, it's a Class D estimate. This money we're talking about is a Class D estimate. It needs to be fleshed out. It needs to go to a C, B. It's going to be a lot more money. That's just a fact. Mr. Naderosny said, mentioned value engineering for limited use. So I'd like to know what that looks like. And I'm interested in it staying as a heritage site that people can walk through and admire. And I think for those purposes, you don't even need to put in the accessible washrooms. I think the town square is awfully close, or we could put in one universal washroom. So I think we need to look at this very clearly. How can the residents and the visitors enjoy this? They can look at the architecture. We have spent a lot of money on the town square. We've spent a lot of money on the armory. It's all our money, your money. It's got to stop. We're in a deficit in our 10-year capital plan. I don't know, in the 2025 budget, it was $53.5 million. That's a lot of money to be in deficit. Maybe other municipalities have larger ones. I don't particularly care. That's ours. Very clearly presented in the 2025 budget. And excuse me, Mr. Mayor, through you, to Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel, was that in the 2024 budget or the 2025 budget? Might have been the 2024 budget.
Swear Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think you might actually be referring to the asset management plan, which came in 2024.
It was
Could
in the
have then
budget.
been
No,
quoted
it
at
was,
that time as well in the budget.
it was actually in the budget. Thank you. So what are we going to do with it? Well, we're going to take care of it, and we're going to, my opinion, we're going to spend the least amount of money we can to refurbish it. And we're going to use the facilities at the town hall and all the other places that we've spent money on, the library, for all the uses that were listed when they did the survey in whatever year it was, including a cafe. We have a cafe at the town square. We have to look at this as if it was our money that we're spending. We have to make a financial decision based on what is best for the residents' financial health. And well, that's the end. I've said my points. Thank you.
Councillor Gallo to the amendment.
Thank you. I won't be supporting this. I do share Councillor Thompson's, I guess, frustration. And we're on the same page in terms of this has happened over and over and over again. And we haven't gotten any better at it. And surely nobody wants to rehash the JOC. But to me, this is where we differ. This is not a question of we just put a figure there as a placeholder. And we just pull it out of the air. That's not what's happening. That's not what's happened in the past, and it's not what happened here. This is an issue of we did more exploratory investigations that probably should have been done far earlier. And that's how we determined that was the issue. And that's why it's quadrupled. And I really wish I could quote the spreadsheet that's right in front of me. Unfortunately, I can't. So, you know, I don't agree that these things, you know, just happen. This is, in my view, an error that we're trying to fix. And 2.1 million maybe is the right amount. How much of that is allocated towards a potential commercial enterprise? I don't know. Can't ask that question. So I don't know. I can look at the spreadsheet and there's lump sums there of hundreds of thousands of dollars under various categories, but I don't know what they're for. Mechanical is one of them. It's a big chunk of it. But I can't answer. I can't ask that question. I can't get those answers. And I'm shocked that no one else would want to even get those answers. Or at least when one of us are asking why the rest of us wouldn't want to, at least if it's just one of us, want that those answers. And I'm sure we could find a way to figure out how to have documents that are not public to go into a closed session to discuss those documents that are not public, because I can't discuss them in public. So I have no way of discussing them. I don't know how anyone is okay with that. And I need to make a $2.1 million decision. It's just not right. It's not right. That's not how you, Mr. Mayor, I wish I would hear from you, because that's not how we lead. That's not how we get things done. This is an error. And it can be fixed. If some of our questions are answered, it can be fixed. And we can probably put it back on the right track. But there's no desire to have those questions answered. And that's very disappointing.
Councillor, second time to the amendment.
Thank you. I'm listening to what everybody has to say and openly, and just hearing a couple of comments and about having facts and numbers, and I'm just I don't know what we're missing. There's 8 pages of this quote that it's very clear to me. Metal cladding, flashing, like I'm assuming I can say like some words like that. I'm not disclosing any numbers, but it's like windows and roofing and spray foam for fire retardant. It seems to be very clearly laid out, unless you don't have all the same 8 pages I'm looking at. But to me, it's a very detailed report for what you get. I don't see hundreds of thousands that are being allocated towards multiple things. I think there's lots of small things that add up quick. And nothing stands out to me that would scream, we don't need to do that. I'm at a loss here, because I just feel like if we were to delay this, I'm not so sure that it's going to come back with any type of different number, because what we're trying to do, and again, I'm going right to the point, was to bring it up to a condition that could be used, that it's code compliant. And that's what happens when you're refurbishing a historical building. We've already established that we don't want to demo it, and we want to protect it, and we want to bring it up to code for whatever use it's going to be. For all I know, we could do this and it's just going to sit there empty, although obviously it's not what's going to happen. But if we're going to bring it up to code to do anything, which I think Michael Thompson, you had suggested as council, we all decided that we wanted to bring it to code to have safe future uses. This is, to be clear, what we need to do. So I don't know what missing facts we're talking about, because I feel like we have all the information here. Did it come all in the same timely fashion that we wanted? No, of course not. That's not what happened here. But, you know, here we are today and we're discussing it. We have the numbers. We've seen the reports. We had the budget approval. We all had the same mindset. And at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves, do we want to demo it? Do we want to bring it up to code? Or do we want to sell it?
Any other comments, questions to the amendment? Councillor Weese, second time.
Just one quickly, and I'm hearing a lot of things that suggest there's some mistrust on these numbers. I don't know whether these numbers are correct or not. But regardless, I like to trust, but I like to verify. And that's all we're talking about here, is to verify these numbers, because we haven't got them. A spreadsheet that comes forward and we don't know whether it's flashing or whatever. That really doesn't speak to the scope of this. And I'm really interested in getting the number. And if it can't be done better than it's been done now, then I'd like to see it done. And then I'd like to have confidence. So trust and verify, please.
Any other comments or questions on the amendment? Councillor Gallo, second time.
I won't belabor this, but seeing as how Councillor Gillen and you brought it up, perhaps I can bring you to 230500, or at the first page under mechanical. Perhaps you can let me know how many items are on that list of the most expensive item on here. Does that give you a good explanation of what's in there? I'll answer for you. There's one line, mechanical, and a price, period. And there's many of those. So there's a lot of detail that is missing in here that I would love to have asked answers to. So I don't know what you're reading. And by the way, you're welcome, because I'm the one who asked for this document so that everyone could see it. Otherwise, you wouldn't even have had that.
Any other comments or questions? Call the vote on the amendment. That carries. Back to the main motion as amended. Any other comments or questions? I was going to speak to the 2016 AECOM report. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 buildings in that report. The report was brought back in 2016, as we all heard. 4 out of those 5 buildings, we've done something with. In the last 7 years, we've seen Town Square be developed. The Armory has transformed. The Petch House, we've finally done something with it, with doing some additions to allow people to utilize it as a wedding chapel. This is the last piece of that AECOM study. Why didn't we move on it on 2016? Well, because we were a little bit busy working on Town Square and working on the Armory at that time. Couldn't do all 5 buildings at the same time. We do them in a staged approach and continue to invest in our community. Every single member at this table had the exact same information. Every single one of us. We all had the opportunity to reach out to staff, have conversations with them, ask them questions with things that maybe we had problems with or we had issues with. I know I did. And I got the answers that I needed to make sure that I can make an informed decision, one that is in the best interest of this community and one that is in the best interest of the residents. This is an investment in our community that we've been working towards, a goal of creating a vibrant downtown core. And it's another piece of the bigger puzzle of that revitalization. We need to invest in our community. And I've said this many times, because if we don't invest in our community, we can't expect the private sector to invest in our community. And by showing the willingness that we are as a community, think that our community is one of the best places to live, work, and play, And we are. And there's a reason why we are. Is because we continue to invest in ourselves, in building something, in moving towards strengthening our community, our downtown core. And so, has been said, is it sticker shock? Absolutely. I mean, and to Councillor Thompson's point about the process and how the numbers come and the placeholder, I'll just remind everyone sitting at this table, we had a placeholder for an aquatic center. Does everyone at the table remember what that placeholder was? 22 million. Does anyone at this table think that we would have built an aquatic center for $22 million? It'd probably be closer to 100 million to build that facility. We need to create a budget, put it in as a placeholder to allow staff to have the ability and the funds to move forward and bring us Class D estimates to start to do the initial work, because without any funds whatsoever, they can't move forward. Without any direction from this table, they can't move forward on doing a detailed analysis. This is how you build a vibrant downtown. This is how you build a strong local economy and a downtown and a community that our residents can be proud of, and that not only today, but generations will be proud of. And will continue to strengthen what makes us one of the best places, not only in Ontario, but in Canada to live, and for businesses to come and invest. So I'll be supporting this. Call a vote. That carries. We're going to take our break now, Council, because I don't think we're going to get through the next one in 8 minutes. Good? All right, we'll take our break. Health break. Councillor Kim?
Yeah, no, that was that's not.
8.5.2, Councillor Gallo, you pulled this one. Do you want to move the recommendation?
It's to receive, but I have some amendments that I promised last week and I shared with council and
Okay.
staff.
Do you want to just put those amendments straight away?
Sure.
Okay. Is there a seconder to the amendments? Councillor Weese, thank you. We can just get them on the screen. Councillor Gallo, go ahead while we get them on the screen. To the amendment?
Yep. So the first one, and I hope I was fair. Initially, when I first wrote this, I was a little more aggressive, but the first one has to do with large piggyback procurements. So we understand, and we got some more information from staff between meetings and helped me tweak this. We understand that, you know, these larger procurement contracts, they go through a process depending on who is doing it, the region, or and I don't disagree that, you know, we shouldn't be necessarily duplicating or going out again. But I did want to put an upper limit. So this is basically saying anything up to 500,000 can be dealt with the PGC.
Okay. Any other comments or questions to the amendment? We'll call the vote. Oh. Was it locked in? Councillor, we have another amendment to deal with. Okay, they already locked it in. Sorry. I already called the vote before your name popped up. Councillor Gillen. Carries. Back to the main motion as amended. Councillor Gall.
Amendment has to do with.
Just give me a second. I'm just going to get a seconder. Is there a seconder? Councillor Gardner, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Gall.
I'm looking for some objective criteria for the non-standard procurement justifications. Some of the verbiage is when issuing a non-standard procurement, significant inconvenience or substantial duplication of costs or best interest of the town. I think those are subjective, and I think we need to define more objective definitions of those terms so that it's very clear on how staff is making a decision, particularly on non-standard procurement. So, and there's many examples of what could be a non-standard procurement. So I'm basically asking for some definitions to tighten that up so that we make sure it's not subjective and it's objective.
Any comments or questions to the amendment? Okay, I will call the vote. That carries. Back to the main motion as amended. Councillor Gall.
Exclusions from Schedule E.
Seconder. Councillor Weese. Go ahead, Councillor Gall.
So this one is, what's being proposed is to remove that Schedule E exclusions to the procurement bylaw be amended to remove the following proposed exclusions. So the proposal is to exclude all these. I'm asking to put them back in. A, advertising for town services or programs. B, goods or services for public relations, media and social media monitoring. C, trade show registration, booths, rental, and event sponsorship. And D, goods and services procured for the purpose of conducting a municipal by-election. I've never experienced, and maybe some others, and I'm happy to hear from it, that we've experienced delays as a result of these items going through a procurement process. I've never heard of it. If there are, I'd love to know. But I believe all of those, particularly B and media, social media monitoring, any of those, I believe should go through the proper process.
Okay. Any comments or questions on this amendment? Councillor Thompson? To the amendment?
To the amendment. Thank you. Through you to Mrs. Wainwright Van Kessel. To Councillor Gallo's point, is there a reason why staff are asking for these exclusions?
Mr. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll start with the one relating to municipal by-election. That one's specifically there because of the shortened time frame that could be required to actually do a by-election. We wouldn't have time to run a procurement. So in this instance, under a shortened time frame, we'd have to then do non-standard procurement, which is probably the fastest process. But if it was an exclusion, we'd be able to move forward and ensure that's done in a timely manner. A number of things like advertising, trade shows, booth rentals and things like that, they're very specific to the events which are happening. So it's not like you can go and compete for a best price in those circumstances. You're looking at targeted events in particular. And for item B, I'll ask Carly if she can speak to that.
Smith?
Through you, Mayor. Mr. Gallo, I think to address your questions, like Rachel said, these are market-based costs, not necessarily bid-based. So the market tends to drive what an advertisement is or what a sponsorship is or what a booth rental is. Going out for a bid process is kind of null and void. So I don't have a specific example to share. When we talk about B, specific to public relations, media and social media monitoring, there's very few vendors. And again, it's market-based. You're not going to get a better or worse cost when you go out to market. It's, to me, if you want to, if that's removed, that's okay. I don't see any, for us at the town, the level of costs that we're spending on those are not substantial. So if that's removed, I'm okay either way. I just think that there's opportunities that may come. Again, it's hypothetical. I haven't come across this so far, but there's opportunities that may come about. Thinking of a last minute show, a food or hospitality or music festival that comes through and they want to add one last minute stop to Aurora. That might be a situation where it would go over. But again, it's hypothetical. I haven't seen it happen here in the time that I've been here. I hope that addresses some of the questions.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Again, through you to Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel. Ms. Smith just mentioned that, if council decides to put the back in, she can manage. If council decides to put these exclusions back in, can procurement, finance manage with the current system?
Mr. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, if these are listed as exclusions, then they do not go through a procurement process.
But
So
if
that
council decides to put them back in?
if council decides to not include them on the exclusions list, so remove them from the exclusions list,
Yeah.
then we'll manage as best as we can.
Okay,
Councillor?
thank you.
Councillor Gallo to the amendment?
Just listening to the conversation, I'm happy to remove D from this list. That makes sense to me.
Councillor Weese, you okay with that? Can we remove D? I'll do that as a friendly amendment. Is that all?
That's it.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Just waiting for it to get back up. Councillor Gillen, you have something on the amendment? Go
Sorry.
ahead.
Oh, is that on the amendment?
It's on the amendment.
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay. All right, I'll call a vote. Carries. Councillor Gallo. Yeah, just to let you know, procedurally, I do need the original recommendation back on. So therefore, we're amending actually something because right now we're not really amending anything because nothing's on. Okay, so we'll change the original one if you're fine. I think the original seconder was Councillor Weese. Yeah, so you okay with that? We're going to put the original recommendation now with all the amendments that have been passed. Okay, we're good with that? Okay. So back to the main motion as amended. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gillen.
Thank you. I just want to see the thing up. You may have already answered this through staff, through Mr. Mayor. In your opinion, with the current proposed amendments specifically for the trade shows and the events and so forth, does it strike the right balance between accountability and operational responsiveness? Because that's my concern. Or is there a risk of creating unintended barriers to allow you to deliver these programs properly?
Smith.
Through you, Mayor, in my opinion, I think that there has not been many opportunities that come up for us that are this time sensitive that we couldn't put together, work with procurement and put something together. So I think that I think it strikes the right balance. I think that our minimums for low value are great. And I think that, yeah, I'm content.
Councillor.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Call the vote. That carries. 8.8.1, Councillor Gallo, you pulled this one. Did you want to move the recommendation?
Yes, and I have an amendment, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Your seconder? Councillor Gardner. Go ahead, Councillor Gallo.
I've shared it with staff. I'll go through it while we go up there. So as we know how we left off last week, this is regarding Gateway and traffic calming measures. I've been working with Michael on getting a petition for the north side of Gateway. Some work has been done on it, but not all. So my recommendation is to move forward with both of them, speed cushions on the north side, on the south side, as recommended by the committee, subject to the final petition of the north side, which will be hopefully done within a few weeks. But just to get the ball rolling, and if obviously if that's not successful, then the north side won't go and the south will. So this was my attempt on trying to resolve that issue, not having the petition, the full petition for the north side, which is required by staff.
So you want to make an amendment to, what's the amendment?
It's on screen.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Gardner? To the amendment, Councillor Gardner, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a reasonable amendment. There's a lot of interest in this community to slow down the traffic on Gateway. I have no doubt that petition will be filled out to the satisfaction of the town, and I don't want this to come back again to council. I don't think it needs to. So I support this amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. through you to Councillor Gallo, I just want to be clear. This amendment only deals with Gateway. It doesn't address Limeridge. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions? I'll be in favor of this, but I'd be in favor of including Limeridge as well. I'm not understanding why we're not including Limeridge. I would hope that someone would bring an amendment to include Limeridge as well. But sure. Councillor Gallo, second time to the amendment.
I think the committee, myself, even the residents and staff have tried their best to find a solution on Limeridge, but there is not a solution. No one has come up with anything to try to fix that problem. There is no areas other than one, perhaps on the north end, where you could put one of those flexible bollards, but it would make virtually no impact. There's no other area where you can install a bollard. There's no area where you can install a speed cushion on there. So unless you or someone else has a solution, I'm happy to hear it and happy to move a motion forward to address that. But no one has been able to come up with a solution. There is a YRP officer on the committee that made some really good suggestions to the owners on that street. And we did tackle some sightline issues. But again, if you have a suggestion that how to deal with it, there was nothing that came out of the committee. And staff could not figure out a way of installing any of those traffic calming measures.
Councillor Gardner, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is my committee. I support what Councillor Gallo has said. We did make one significant improvement. I don't know if it's actually happened yet, but on the curve, there was a lot of overgrown shrubbery trees that actually belonged to a homeowner, not to the town. And I believe that that is going to be cut back and it'll really improve the sightlines for that street. And we had both of the Michaels at the committee meeting, and what Councillor Gallo said is true. And they don't want sidewalks. They don't want a sidewalk. So there's just really nothing further that we can do. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Call the vote. That carries the main motion as amended. Any other comments or questions? Call the vote. That carries. 8.8.2, Councillor Gardner, you pulled this. Did you want to move the recommendation?
Mr. Mayor.
Seconder, Councillor Weese. Go ahead, Councillor Gardner.
I wasn't able to stay for this part of the meeting last time. And first of all, I'd like to say that the owners of the property are here tonight. I thank them for coming and for taking such good care of this heritage property. It's a very interesting story. It's called the Bunker House by the community. This was prepared for the, let's say, well, we'll say the politicians, the provincial politicians located in Toronto. And if there was to be a nuclear attack, they needed somewhere to go. And so this bunker was built. And it's a very interesting story and it needs a little bit of help. So thank you. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Oriana Broadbeck and her husband. They actually designated this house just before they sold it. And people generally don't do that because it reduces the value of the property, or it would have in this case. And they felt that it was a significant heritage property and designated. So I'm sure they're not listening, but thank them and wish more people would do things like that.
Any other comments, questions? Call the vote. That carries. 8.9.1, Councillor Gardner, you pulled this. Did you want to move the recommendation? But she pulled it. I need it. You want to move the recommendation?
Yes, I
Thank
do.
you. Seconder, Councillor Weese, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Gardner.
Very briefly, again, I wasn't here for this. I thank Councillor Weese for this motion. I think there's fairness in this. I think I'm not sure how it happened, but it's a situation that definitely needs to be corrected. And the manager came to council and spoke very well about why this was required. And thank you, Councillor Weese. I'm definitely in favor.
Weese?
I would like to add something, however, because I spoke with the treasurer after, and Councillor Gilliland made a number of comments about the going forward position, and I'm wondering if we can't put an amendment in here to make this a little more urgent. These people are interested in some immediate relief, and I know that in discussing with the treasurer that there's a plan to take a look at this and other issues around water, wastewater, and billing, but that may not come until the next term. And I'm wondering if we can make an amendment that that this comes back to council and perhaps Q2 or even Q3, but sometime in this term. So through you, can we ask the treasurer if this can be moved up a few months?
Mr. Mayor, Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, for this report, we would plan on bringing the report back in Q2. The actual implementation will take longer because of the way we currently deal with billing for stormwater. It would be a significant change to stormwater. It doesn't affect water, wastewater billing because that's metered billing. This is stormwater specifically. And it would change the way, and need to be some categorization of the properties. So it will take some time and manual effort to get it in place. Plus, we'd be also looking at some system changes to accommodate the change as well. So what we can do is bring the report forward with the recommendations, get council's approval on the method for doing the stormwater billing going forward with an implementation plan. It won't happen at that time, but we'll have an implementation plan.
Okay, so the implementation plan, thank you. The implementation plan will be in the report. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Call the vote. That carries. New business. Councillor Campbell, Councillor Gallo, Councillor Thompson. Yep, go ahead.
Through you to Mr. Maruno. Mr. Maruno, I noticed that the notice of the public open house for the Yonge Street South Regional Corridor has come to council for Monday, March 23rd is the public open house from 6 to 8. Has notice gone out to residents in the area? What is the communication plan so those that are interested in it will be notified and be able to attend?
Mr. Romano.
Sure, through you, Mr. Mayor. So yes, I think council has received those notices for the initial public engagement to seek feedback from the public. I think the next steps, I'm not sure if it's been done yet, multiple notices in the local newspaper and notices to the Ratepayers Association and notices to all owners within that study area.
Councillor.
Thank you. You know, as you know, I mean, down in that area, you know, homes are widely spaced apart because they're all estate residentials. You know, perhaps we give some consideration, you know, to widening the area. You know, perhaps, you know, giving into some consideration, you know, typically, I can't remember the number we use for public planning notices is 120 or 240 meters, whatever. But, you know, I think that in this case, you know, we want to make sure that as many people as possible are aware of it. I'm sure that Ms. Smith, you know, Carly will put together a communication plan through social media and other avenues as well to promote it as well, because I'm sure there'll be lots of public interest for those that live within that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Garner, new business? Councillor Gillen, new business? Councillor Weese, new business? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to allow it under new business as opposed to a PSA, but it's a comment because I can't let the 4-year anniversary of the Russian aggression against the country of Ukraine go without notice. We've seen rallies and others elsewhere, and we haven't had one here, and I'm not suggesting we need to have one here, but I think we need to make a comment, and I just want to express my sorrow for the human and economic losses and pray for a just peace in that area, and I hope this is shared by all Canadians.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo, new business?
Sorry, I don't know if it's new business or not, but I just wanted to acknowledge and publicly thank Ms. Steenkamp and her department. I'm sure we all agree that, you know, this winter's been tough, and we've had many, you know, communications from residents, and her department acts very quickly and promptly and helps those residents. And I got, oddly enough, a really good thank you from one of the residents as a result of their work. So I want to thank them.
Okay. Councillor Gardner, you have new business then?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't going to echo that, but I will certainly echo that. And I haven't had any complaints. Well, had one, but considering the severity of the weather to this point, and I congratulate you and all of the staff that has made this happen, because they must be very tired and probably annoyed. Thank you. I'm going to bring that much closer to home. My neighbor's brother-in-law was killed fighting in I don't know if we can call it a war. It's a waste of human life, and I thank Councillor Weese for acknowledging the date, the 4 years.
Thank you. Absolutely, it's an unjust war. I remember when we did, when the war first began, we did a solidarity walk into Town Park, we raised the Ukrainian flag here in the town. I remember that. Is it time to maybe do something again to, you know, to show that our solidarity with the Ukrainian community here in the town of Aurora and to greater extent across the GTA? Absolutely, we can look at that because I think it's important. So, Snow, Ms. Steenkamp, I think as everyone said, great job. I'll throw that in. And council, if you haven't, I think I did mention this before. I went for a ride with our with some of our operators, and it's really eye-opening. And I think every single one of us should have an opportunity to go out there with our staff to see the obstacles that they're dealing with on a daily basis in snow removal. It's actually quite amazing to see what they're dealing with and how great of a job they actually do, considering some of the obstacles from garbage blue bins to cars on the streets. Sometimes it can get difficult out there. And I know that being on that ride, they do their best to minimize how much snow ends up on the driveway as far as from a windrow. And they take their jobs very seriously and very passionately about doing a good job. So I want to thank you, Ms. Steenkamp, as well as the entire operations team for the work that they've done over this winter. Bylaws. Someone like to move those bylaws? Councillor Kim, Councillor Thompson. Any comments or questions on the bylaws? Call the vote. That carries. Can you get a motion for the confirming bylaw? Councillor Weese, Councillor Kim, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Gardner, Councillor Gilliland, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.